Hey y'all, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a reading vlog, and I thought I would start this vlog off with a haul from the grocery store. Weather's been kind of crazy as I am watching people get snow in Los Angeles. It was literally 80 degrees here yesterday, and so a friend of mine and we went to go get boba, which was lovely, and then he took me to the Korean market because I had never gone, and he was like, you need to go, you need to go. So he took me to the Korean market, and y'all are about to see the haul of what I got. The main thing that happened is we split a thing of kimchi. So this is my kimchi in a jar. It looks like it's very little, but I have never had it before. So he wanted me to have a substantial amount to try, but we split it because he can't ever finish a little thing of kimchi before it goes bad. So we split that. This is the thing I think I'm the most excited about. Two things that are not Korean that I got. I got hoisin, and I also just got oyster sauce. I needed both of these, and actually I don't think I have ever had hoisin, but I feel like I would really like it. So these two things were not Korean, but I'm excited. This is Korean, but it's basic. This is sesame oil. I just needed some sesame oil, but look how pretty the bottle is. I love sesame oil, and I use it very, very frequently, like when I'm making Asian dressings of any kind or making stir fry of any kind. I use a lot of sesame oil because I really like the flavor of sesame. And so some people don't. It's kind of strong, but I personally really like it. So this is my sesame oil. Then I picked up this because my friend told me this was like amazing and delicious, and I thought this was kind of like a gochujang sauce, but it's just a hot pepper paste for bibimbap. And that's basically what I would eat if I eat anything Korean, because I'm not a meat eater. So I am excited about this because I think I can use this in place of things like sriracha, and he just said it was amazing on basically everything, but specifically on roasted vegetables. This is what I'm really excited about, and I think I'm probably really going to like it. I was really overwhelmed by the sauces. That's the thing that excited me the most. And then I only walked away with a couple of sauces, so I'm proud of myself. But I really, really loved the sauce aisle. I can't wait to go back and look more at the sauces, but I was very much overwhelmed, so I'm glad he was with me to tell me like what was really good. I also got noodles. Who am I? This is like the standard noodle that they use in soups and everything. It's very, very thin. You can put this in soups and stuff. I don't like soup. I'll eat the noodles out of soup, but I never drink the broth from anything like ramen or anything like that. I'm just not a soup girl. 100% I'm not. But I think this will be really, really good because I've seen some jar salads that I want to try that have these noodles in it. So I just was really thrilled. I was overwhelmed by the noodle selection. I almost walked out of there with 10 different kinds of noodles, but I'm proud of myself. I only got one noodle, and I think it's going to be the ideal noodle because you can see there just kind of how thin they are and then how they'll cook up. Last but not least of my grocery haul, I got seaweed. Again, because my friend told me this was like the best seaweed was in these sheets instead of in the little packs. So I'll see. I trust him. I trust him. So we'll see. Once again, I have never had seaweed. I feel like I would absolutely love it because based on what everyone says about it, I feel like it's a flavor profile that I'm really going to like. I've like never had sushi, as a matter of fact, and I really don't know why. It's just never appealed to me. So I'm gonna try this on the side with everything. So my friend was telling me how to do this, that you just put kimchi and seaweed on the side of everything you cook. He doesn't cook a whole lot. Apparently I cook more than he does. So he just said I can put this on the side of basically anything I'm cooking, and it doesn't have to be its own thing, but he also likes to wrap up rice and kimchi in these. And I am obsessed, literally obsessed with seeing all of the characters on the back of this. Like, I just think it's so much fun to see so many different languages on the back of a package. I don't know, I'm just having a great time. I had a fantastic time last night at the grocery store. We spent almost 2 hours in that place, and I was having the time of my life. So this has been a pretty eventful week, a pretty busy week actually, but it's been pretty great. This is the week of Mardi Gras, so we had king cake 2 or 3 days in a row at the office. King cake's like one of my favorite things. and then I've gone out a couple of nights with friends. So this has been a week of basically no reading. And so this weekend, I wanted to finish the things that I'm in the middle of. So I'm in the middle of 3 books right now. And I think if I parse out time correctly, then this weekend they can get read. So one of the things that I am in the middle of is Electric Idol by Katee Robert. Yes, I haven't learned my lesson. I have carried on in this series. This is the sequel to Neon Gods, which I read in a vlog a couple of weeks back. This is also nominally a Greek myth retelling. This is about Eros and Psyche. If you know anything about the myth of Eros and Psyche, if you pick up this book, you're gonna say, this has no resemblance to that myth whatsoever, and really they just wanted to use the characters' names. You'd be right. You would be right, because this really truly is just kind of a standard romance setup. I feel like the Hades and Persephone retelling Neon Gods, I feel like that at least had the large beats that you recognize from the Hades and Persephone story that it was trying to meet. Like, you at least recognized that it was retelling that specific myth. Here, I think without their names, you would not know that this is the myth that's being retold. All that said, I am enjoying this even more than I did Neon Gods, because I really love Eros. I really love him as a romantic hero, and I just think he's fantastic. I really, really like him as a character. And I feel like on a character level, this is a stronger book than the first book, but it is still not what I in particular really want from a romance. I really want to feel that emotional engagement and that emotional pull, and it's here in this book, but it's not something we as the reader have ever gotten to witness. It's just like one day Eros says, oh, I'm basically in love with her. And you're thinking, okay, we did not see that at all. Like, we never saw the build to that. I respect the place that lust plays in a romance. Definitely I do, because you're not really going to fall in love with someone that you're not attracted to on some level. And so I respect that. Like, I respect that in these books, the lust is going to be acted on before we have the emotional connection. But what's interesting is that in this book, they claim there is an emotional connection for both of them, but we've just not seen it get there. And I think that must be the part of the relationship writing that Katee Roberts struggles with, is just how somebody falls in love with someone else. And I feel like that's done better in other romances, but I still just love the characters, and I really love the world here. I am really, really excited about this series. I'm just really enjoying it, despite the fact that I clearly have a lot of issues with the way it's written. I am enjoying it more than Neon Gods, than the Hades and Persephone retelling, but I still don't think I can give it 5 stars. I'm really enjoying this one. So I'm about halfway through this. Literally, I was reading this the other day in the orthodontist's office. And if you've read Katee Robert, you know what I was reading. And a man literally was sitting in the seat behind me, like came in while I'm reading and sat in the seat behind me, and I had to close the book. I said, he cannot look over my shoulder and see that I'm reading this. I just could not meet his eyes. So that's the last time that I read this, was the other day at my orthodontist appointment. So I'm about 50 or 60% of the way through this. These feel relatively short to me, so I feel like this is one that I can probably hammer out maybe today. I am also reading on my Kindle Briefly A Delicious Life, I think is the title, by Nell Stevens. And this is also absolutely fantastic. The 3 books that I'm in the middle of are all incredible for very different reasons. This is a historical fiction that is about George Sand and Frederic Chopin when they stayed in a monastery somewhere in Spain. And this monastery is being haunted by a girl who died there in the 1400s. And so it's from the perspective of the ghost, and she is like falling in love with George Sand. It is so dreamy, beautiful, incredible. I am obsessed with it. Obsessed with it. One of y'all recommended this to me. Thank you, because it's so up my alley. I am obsessed with it. It is so beautifully written. It's just dreamy and decadent and really lush. It feels very summery. It feels very sun-baked. and the monastery feels very hot and cloistered, and I just really, really enjoy it. I know nothing about George Sand or Chopin, and I feel like I really like Chopin. He is portrayed as someone that I would typically really like, a historical figure that I would probably really like. And so I feel like I want to look into him a little bit more. I know George Sand was a writer, but I have never read anything that she wrote. But this book is interesting in that it's kind of exploring her as someone who likes to dress in men's clothing and like her relationship to gender dynamics in the 19th century, which I think is really fascinating. And the ghost figure is like comparing this to everything that she's witnessed in the past 400 years. I love it. I'm 20% of the way through. I'm gonna call it. I think the book's gonna get 5 stars. I really, truly do. I think it's gonna get 5 stars from me. Last but not least, I am also currently reading Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. You can see where I am. I'm not even halfway through, but the book is flying by. This is absolutely fantastic. It is cozy fantasy. It's kind of historical fantasy because it is set in our world in the early 1900s, but knowledge of the Fae is out there. So our main character, Emily, is going to record information on a group of Fae that basically no one has had any kind of interaction with and nothing has been recorded about. And her academic rival also comes and she feels like he's going to steal her research. I just think this is so fantastic. It's such a great ride. I'm having the time of my life. I truly just love Fae books. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If it's got Fae in it, it's probably going to get a good rating from me because even when they're bad, they're still pretty good. And this is Fae as I like to see them. This is very folklore heavy. And I think it's really interesting because it's really talking about Fae as they have always been presented in myth. They're not really good, but they're not really bad either. And so there's kind of like the common folk, which are like small Fae, like brownies and sprites and stuff. And then you have courtly Fae, which are more human-like. You might call the plot of this kind of minimal, but I don't really think that the plot is really what you're here for. You're kind of just here for the vibes, but I really love the characterization and I really love kind of an underlying mystery element that the book has that I knew nothing about. I actually did not know what this book was truly about. I don't know if I read the synopsis wrong or what, but I really thought this book was about proving the existence of the Fae and not that the Fae were kind of out in the world and everyone knows about them. And there's actually a study that you can go into, a discipline that you can go into that is just entirely study of the Fae. And I love that because if I lived in this world, that's probably what I would do with my life. So I respect Emily Wilde, but this is so much fun. So much fun. And I'm having a great time with all 3 books that I am currently reading, which is really great because last week I truly thought I was about to enter a slump. So I'm reading 3 pretty fantastic books. The goal is to get them out of the way this weekend. I don't know whether that'll happen or not because we may have another haul coming in this afternoon because I have some stationery out for delivery. And so once I get that stationery, I know I'm gonna go craft for a little while. I'm really excited about all of these and I'm at varying places within each of them. So I feel like maybe I should go with Electric Idol because I think I am the furthest into that, but we'll see how that goes. I might just pick up the one that I'm most interested in. Please forgive this lighting because I realize it's doing literally nothing for me. I look sallow. I just don't even know how I look. This is really awful lighting for me. But I wanted to update. I'm now about 50% of the way through the book about George Sand and the ghost, Briefly a Delicious Life. I am obsessed with this. Truly obsessed with it. It is so good. I really don't know why. I think partially it's great to me because I know nothing about George Sand or Chopin. And so the book is also teaching me a lot. I'm really enjoying it. And I think of the 3, it might weirdly enough have the most mass appeal because I think it works very well for someone who is into literary fiction. I think it works very well for someone who loves historical fiction. And I just think it's so dreamily written. And I personally love ghost stories. I love stories that feature ghosts in any way. And this is, of course, not really a horror story. And the focus is not on the fact that our main character, Blanca, is a ghost, but she kind of acts ghost-like and will like move things, drop things on the floor. And so it's kind of funny in that way. But of course, it's not really a horror novel. It is just such a genuine delight to me to read. I have really enjoyed it. And I think of the three, it's probably going to get the highest rating from me. But that's how I'm feeling right now. I'll let you know how I'm feeling a bit later when I finish one of the three. Update, I have tried the kimchi. Amazing. I adore it. It is so good. It is so good. I finished last night, briefly, A Delicious Life, 5 stars. I loved this. Loved this. It was so dreamy and wonderful to read, and I particularly loved the ending. I do feel like the ending was kind of rushed, weirdly enough, but I just felt like this book was meant for a reader like me. This really encompassed a lot of what I enjoy, and I just think it really hit for me. Part of me says the book probably really doesn't deserve 5 stars, and I would say that probably a few months on from now, I am likely not going to remember a lot about this book. I think in a few months, if you ask me, I would probably bump this rating down. That's just the sense that I get right now. You never know. This might be a book that I think about pretty consistently, but I was thinking about it constantly during the reading process. I really did not want to put it down. I did not want to switch to one of the other 2 books. So this is one of the big successes for me. I mean, just dreamy, wonderful, and I'm kind of in love with Frederic Chopin, matter of fact. And really the portrayal of him in this book is actually not that positive, so I don't know what that says about me. But even there at the end, like our main character Blanca, who is a ghost, she thinks he's super whiny and petty and just kind of mean. And I really didn't see that. Honestly, I did not. But when he was playing the piano, she said, when he plays, I can see why someone would fall in love with him. And I just kind of already felt that. I already felt that, just knowing he was a musician, I guess. This is just continuing my trend. I always have a crush on a historical figure who was an artist. Whenever I read historical fiction like this, I feel like I come away with a bit of a crush. And so right now it's Frederic Chopin. I know next to nothing about him, and this book taught me a lot. I also knew next to nothing about George Sand, and as a matter of fact, I would say I really did not like her in this book, and I could not understand why Blanca was so fascinated with her. She was not the most interesting person in this plot to me, and I guess maybe the point was that George Sand was very interesting at the time because she was breaking gender norms, and I guess for us in the modern day, that's so rote at this point that she just didn't stand out to me. But I would say that I admire what she does and what she stood for in this book. I admire that in other historical figures. And so I think I personally just did not like her, or did not like the characterization of her that was in this book. But I am kind of curious to try her writing. I'll be interested to see if I get on with it. Just from this book, I feel like she and I are not compatible, and I feel like I just would not like her writing. But I'm very curious about it because it did discuss some of her works, and I thought they sounded really neat. But what's so interesting about Briefly, A Delicious Life, George Sand and Frederic Chopin were interesting and all. It was interesting to read the story of them at the charter house and them at the monastery. But what was even more fascinating was the fictional character Blanca and learning about her past life. I just loved it. I just really loved it. I was obsessed with it. And I feel like I have a thing for covers like this that have just a painting on the front. I feel like I tend to really enjoy books that have kind of a painting, kind of a Renaissance painting on the front. And I feel like I should put that to the test. I should do a vlog where I read books that have paintings on the cover just to see if really that is a trend that I like. If when a publisher puts a certain type of painting on a cover, if that does signal to me what the book is going to be in terms of the writing quality. That's what I think anyway. I think it often signifies to me that it's going to be pretty lyrically written. But this was 5 stars. I loved it. I am about still, I think 60% of the way through of Electric Idol. I don't know that I'm going to finish that this weekend. Probably not. It is nice just to have something on the go on Kindle for me, especially if I want to read at my lunch hour or anything. It is nice when you're waiting for an appointment or something like that to have something that's on the go that you can read. And I feel like this is a good one for that because I'm not really in danger of forgetting what's going on. I don't even know if I told you the plot setup for this. It is supposed to be an Eros and Psyche retelling. Why bother with that? But this is essentially an arranged marriage plot. They have gotten married, forced marriage, just for safety purposes. And I feel like that's a trope that I would say I enjoy, and I'm definitely enjoying it here. I think in general, this is a stronger book than the first because I really like the characters more, and I find their relationship far more believable than I did Hades and Persephone's. And I think a lot of that is that this book waited until around the 40% mark before we ever got to the smutty scenes, to the spicy scenes, as they say on TikTok, which I hate. I hate the word spicy. Just call it like it is. But I think that allowed their characters to develop, and it also allowed them to develop a relationship together, which I really appreciated and I really enjoyed. I still think that is easily the weak point of this entire series. I just don't feel the emotional connection between the characters, even though they are claiming that it's there. I don't necessarily see that as the reader. I just feel like they're saying that happened, but it must have happened somewhere off page. I have not made it any further into Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, but I feel like this afternoon I might read a little bit of that. And so I'll let you know how that goes. I feel like that might also get 5 stars from me. I feel like we're reading 3 bangers in this vlog. I have definitely been having a way stronger reading year this year than I did last year. And so I'm really happy. I hope the momentum keeps up. Today's boba is mango green tea. Kind of floral. I don't know if it's my vibe, but it is very refreshing. Update time. I'm sure you can guess that this is not still the weekend. It's actually Tuesday, and I was so totally supposed to finish this not only in the weekend, but also just within the month of February. I really wanted to kind of close out the month of February easily. Sadly, no. I did finish Electric Idol. And I have to say, my opinion on this went down as the book went along, kind of just because I felt like we had been here before. I really felt like this kind of started to tread the same exact ground that Neon Gods did, weirdly enough. And I think some of it is just by dint of the fact that it's a romance book. And I need to accept that romance books are going to have their formulas. And they're really, in the end, going to do some of the same stuff over and over again. And so maybe I picked this up too close on the heels of Neon Gods, but I basically gave this 3 stars, though I really would say, on the whole, I enjoyed the characters far more in this one. And so I'm kind of torn on that. On the one hand, I feel like maybe I should give it 4 stars just because I really enjoyed the characterization here in a way that I didn't in Neon Gods. I just think these were more fully fledged characters outside of their relationship to each other. Whereas I felt like in Neon Gods, the characters were really just there to be a couple. I wasn't really clear on specifically Persephone, the main female character. I was specifically not clear on what her motivations were outside of the relationship with him, whereas I feel like in this book they were both 2 fully fledged characters before they came together in the relationship. And so I personally really enjoyed that, but I still feel like it felt kind of repetitive to me. So 3 stars because I definitely still enjoyed it, but I think I'm going to take a break for a little while and I'm not going to read the 3rd book in the series yet, but that's really the one that I picked this series up for because the 3rd book in this series is like a polyamorous relationship between Achilles, Patroclus, and Helen. I am just fascinated by that combination, first of all, like why Helen? Why not Briseis? But I'm interested to see how it goes, and I feel like that's going to have a bit more of a plot going for it rather than just a straightforward romance. And that is just something about me. I just really need there to be something else going on that is not the romance, that is not two people getting together. And I feel like Neon Gods had more of that than this book did. And I feel like the third book is going to have even more of that and have more of a plot. So I am looking forward to this. I'm definitely going to read more in the series, but it probably won't be for a few more weeks. Here's the truth, and here's the sad truth. I feel like I've hit a bit of a wall with Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and it's just because here in the midsection of the book, I'm about halfway through still. I just feel like it's really dragging. I feel like it's really slow. And so I'm hoping that I can hammer this out tonight. It's doubtful. It's really doubtful, but I do really want to finish this out because I want to be able to start fresh and new with the next book that I pick up. I don't want to pick up a book with another one on the go. I'm just tired of that. So I feel like I need a blank slate. I need a clean slate. And so that's kind of my goal here, is to finish this so that I can read something new and not feel guilty about not finishing other things, because so much has already happened this year in terms of me just setting a book down and not picking it back up. And it's been totally and completely unintentional 90% of the time. And so I'm just trying to finish things that are on my currently reading shelf. And this one has been there for over a week now. And that's always a bad sign for me, because it's like, why haven't I finished it yet? I really think this book is going to work for a particular type of reader. And it's somebody who wants some low stakes. That's clearly what this book is it's very cozy fantasy. The stakes are not very high. Personally, I wish there was a little bit more in terms of stakes. I wish there was a little bit more drama, especially in terms of characterization. I just thought there would be more there. One thing I do have to say that I just absolutely love is that this is set in Scandinavia. And so the Fae are kind of like ice Fae. Obsessed. Literally, we just had a scene where basically she went to one of the Fae markets, and this one girl had a crown of icicles that were constantly like melting into her eyes based on the way that the icicles hung. And I was obsessed with the imagery, just obsessed with that. When talking about fantasy creatures and just fantasy worlds that I want to live in, I want to live in a Fae world. But I need to recognize that I'm not one of the mortals that they would welcome in and they would queen. Like, that's absolutely not me. I am somebody that they would take just because they could, because I'm foolish, and I know I would fall for it. Like, I'm the person who would walk into the ring of mushrooms. Absolutely. I am the one who would go off the path in the forest trying to find them. I know that about myself. I'm not the person that they would like fall in love with, and I would not become queen of the autumn court, though in my mind, that's where I need to be. That's where I should be. I definitely need to be grateful that I'm not in the Fae courts, because 100% I would be the person they'd be making fun of, and the person who would like forget everything and forget all of her human qualities when they finally dropped you back in the human world 700 years later. I wouldn't even remember who I was, something like that. Like, I feel like that would be me. So I'm still really enjoying this, and I really enjoy the atmosphere of it, but I wish a little bit more was happening. I have gone from thinking that I was going to rate this book 5 stars to feeling like it's probably gonna be a 3 or a 4. Depending on how this finishes, it'll probably get a 4-star from me, but I do really want a little bit more from it. And I can't really even put words to what it is I want, because I definitely think there have been a lot of Fae in this. In fact, more than what I thought. I'm really excited by the amount that we have encountered the Fae in this book. And I really appreciate the characterization of the Fae as something out of folklore and not necessarily as fantasy creatures, which I really appreciate and I really think is fun. And they're the Fae that I'm most intrigued by anyway. So I'm still really enjoying this. My dream is that I finish it tonight, but it's probably not going to happen. I'll confess to y'all, I have been reading a 100,000 word fan fiction on Wattpad. And I know how that sounds. It's not great, and I still do have some pride, so I'm not going to tell you what fandom it's in, but I have literally been reading that for past few days, obsessed. I mean, fan fiction writers are the backbone of our community, truly they are. And also, Outer Banks came out, season 3, and I've been watching that because that's set here in North Carolina. They don't film it here, but it is set here, and a lot of local people are involved in it. I mean, not people I know, but local North Carolinians are involved in the show. So I just really like to support it, and it's a whole lot of fun. So reading has not been on the forefront of my mind. Well, reading published works has not been on the forefront of my mind, but I think I could probably finish this if I really sat down and focused on it. It is officially a week since I started this vlog. So a weekend reading vlog turned into a week-long reading vlog, but I have finally finished Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. And I don't want to say finally like I didn't enjoy it, because I really did. And I wound up rating the book 4 stars, but I think initially early on, I automatically thought this is a 5-star read. And it just wound up not being the case. The reason being, I just really think it started to drag in that second half. In fact, I would say on the whole, the first half of the book felt tighter and felt better edited. And it also felt far more cohesive to me personally. And so I feel like the first half of the book was just much stronger than the second half. And so the second half really started to have some problems for me just in terms of pacing, but I still really enjoyed it. It's going to be a series. I don't think I knew that when I picked it up. And I'm not disappointed by that. I think the opportunity is there to do a lot, especially in terms of the world. I think it's going to be pretty exciting to explore more of the world where the Fae are out. I think that's going to be a whole lot of fun. And I really am invested in the characters. I just think I wish that maybe there had been more of a cohesive plot, and maybe not just in terms of plot in this book, but something that I feel like is going to be the overarching thread of the series. There is something though that is definitely going to carry over the entire series, and it's easily the plot line that I'm the most interested in. So I enjoyed this. I just really thought early on that it was going to get 5 stars from me, and it didn't. But that's okay. 4 stars is still really great, and I get the sense I'm going to be thinking about this one a lot. I know I said earlier that I didn't think Briefly a Delicious Life was going to have longevity for me, that I wasn't going to think about it frequently, but I mean, I've thought about it every day since. Every day since. We got a book in today at work that was by George Sand, Lavinia. Instantly took me back, and I was intrigued to read it because I had read Briefly a Delicious Life. That was just so fantastic. And so I feel like even though I really enjoyed Electric Idol and I also really enjoyed Emily Wilde, the experience of Briefly a Delicious Life just completely overshadowed them, sad to say. But that was definitely a 5-star read, and I'm serious, a favorite of the year. So I think this was a successful reading vlog. I feel like this is going to be a year of new releases for me, and I'm excited about that because that hasn't been the case for me in many, many years at this point, where I've actually been interested in a lot of what's currently being released. But I feel a lot of interest this year in what publishers are putting out, and so I'm really excited about that. But I'm just going to close the reading vlog here. I would love to hear in the comments down below if you have read any of these, what you thought of them, what you're currently reading. But that's going to be all from me today. I hope you're all having a great week. Happy reading. Goodbye.